Hey guys, welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel today. And we got another good video on fishing line. We talk about fishing line quite a bit on all three of my channels, but I want to have sort of a deep dive, comprehensive little seminar here on every three type of line that you got, the braided line, monofilament, and fluorocarbon, and go over each technique and each lure that works the best with those particular lines, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about people using the wrong lines at the wrong time. They use, braided line when they should be using fluorocarbon and vice versa. And if you don't match the technique and the lure to the right line, it's gonna cost you strikes, it's gonna cost you losing fish, it's gonna cost you efficiency. So we're gonna dig into that in today's video. And also, guys, speaking of line, real quick, I wanted to show you the new line that Seaguar has. This is the Seaguar Carbon Ultra. They just came out with this line. This is absolutely my favorite line Seaguar's ever came out with. I've been using Invisex, the Seaguar Invisex, for years, but the Carbon Ultra, guys, it's so unique in the terms that it's very, very supple and soft, yet it's abrasion resistant. And most of the time, if you get a line that's like super abrasion resistant, the line is stiffer and brittle, or if you get a line that's too castable and soft, it nicks really easy. But this is sort of the best of the both worlds, guys, abrasion resistant and soft. I'll put the Carbon Ultra link and my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video if you guys would like to get you a spool using that link. Much appreciated. And also, guys, real quick, tomorrow night, which is February 12th at 6:30 Central Standard Time, we got my first live stream. And this live stream is going to be a private live stream for my channel members and Patreon members. So if you guys would like to join, all you have to do, guys, go into the description of this video, sign up for the Patreon program, or join as a channel member, and you can get the link tomorrow to my private live stream. We're gonna have a good time with it. Gonna be doing them every week from now on out. So those are gonna be sort of like a special perk for all the people that support the channel through the Patreon and channel memberships. I really appreciate that. Okay, fluorocarbon, braided line, mono. Let's talk a little bit about each one of those. Each one of them has a characteristic that's sort of unique to itself. And basically, here is the difference between the three, if you're not real familiar with it. Of course, braided line, the main thing about it is it has zero stretch. It's literally, it has no stretch whatsoever to it. But braided line is the most visible of all lines. Even like some of the low colored ones, like Seaguar has a stealth gray, and a lot of different companies make sort of like a camouflage braid, but nevertheless, they are not clear like monofilament or fluorocarbon, so the fish can see them. There's no doubt whatsoever they can see them. Now, braided line also, there's a couple different things with it in terms of the advantages to it, but we'll get into that here in a second. But main thing, guys, is the advantage, no stretch. Disadvantage, you can see the line, or the fish can see the line. Now, monofilament line, which has been around forever and what I use forever, it's a good all-around line. It comes in several different colors. You can get them in you can get mono in yellow, you can get it in clear blue, you can get it in green, you can get it in clear. The clear on monofilament is not as clear as a fluorocarbon line, but monofilament line, compared to the other two, it has a lot of stretch to it compared to braided line or fluorocarbon. It's a little bit larger diameter than fluorocarbon or braided line, but one of the advantages of it is it does float a little bit more, and that's an advantage to some techniques we're going to talk about. And then, of course, fluorocarbon line, it sort of has the best of both worlds. It has less stretch than mono, but obviously has a little bit of stretch in it. It's small diameter and it's very clear. So there's a lot of advantages to fluorocarbon line, which is the line that most people use in most applications, but there's time to use it and time not. So let's go through the three and sort of explain, the lures that I use with it. Okay, for my braided line, the braided line is the line that I use the least. And simply because I want some stretch in my line and I don't want fish to see the line. So the only times that I use braided line is if I'm throwing like a frog or some type of a horny toad or something like that over thick matted vegetation. Say I'm throwing a frog in thick lily pads where I'm twitching a little bit in little openings that big. Or if I'm fishing a horny toad or some type of a soft plastic buzz toad over the top of vegetation that's that far underneath the surface, then I will use braided line, because the line is completely out of the water, the fish can't see it, and when the fish bites, I can set the hook and I have no stretch and I can pull those fish out of that heavy cover. That's my primary use for braided line. Now, a couple other limited applications for it. I will use it occasionally for pitching and flipping extremely heavy cover, usually with a heavy weight lure, like a 1 ounce punch rig, 1 ounce creature bait, 1 ounce jig, flipping and pitching in off-colored water that is extremely thick cover. Reeds, cattails, matted vegetation, matted hyacinths, places where the bait is dropping straight down onto the fish in off-colored water, and extremely heavy cover. Where the only reason I'm using the braided line in a situation like that is the power to get the fish out of that super thick cover. That's one situation. And occasionally, not a whole lot, but occasionally I might use it like on a whopper plopper or buzz bait, but not very much. I usually use fluorocarbon with that. So that's my baseline for braided line. Monofilament line, couple different applications. I use monofilament line on all of my floating top waters where you twitch the top water and it floats. So this would be like a walking bait, like a Xeraspook or Megabass Diamante, a prop lure, a popper, a little twitching or Rapala on the surface. I use the monofilament in a situation like that simply because the mono floats, and if you try to fish those baits with fluorocarbon line, the line sinks and it'll sink those baits down and they get nose heavy and they don't work as good. So topwater lures is number one. And the second situation that I'll use a monofilament line is if I'm fishing a square bill crankbait and making short casts and reeling the bait really fast. So let's say, for example, there's lay down trees or logs in the water and it's summertime, the water's dirty, and I'm making short casts and burning that square bill next to those lay downs. Since I don't have much line out and I'm reeling that bait fast, a lot of times I want that extra stretch that the monofilament offers because I'm reeling the bait fast and the line is close to me. So that little bit of extra stretch with the square bill crankbait is an application that I use. But probably I'm gonna say out of all my fishing throughout the course of a year, over 90% of my fishing is done with the fluorocarbon, like the Carbon Ultra or the Seaguar Invis-X. This is what I use most for everything. I use it for all of my slow baits, like shaky heads, Ned rigs, jigs, Texas rig worms, Carolina rigs, anything that I'm fishing slow. I use it for most every crankbait besides the technique I was just talking about for deep cranking. I use it on chatterbaits, I use it on spinner baits, I use it on lipless crankbaits, I use it on swim baits, I use it on glide baits, I use it on everything. Now, the reason I do this is because I can go with heavy line on the fluorocarbon and still have small diameter. That's a big thing. And the diameter is not only smaller than the other, but it's invisible. The fish can't see it. It's got just the right amount of stretch. It doesn't have a lot of stretch, but it has a little bit of stretch. And it's very sensitive. It's not as sensitive as braided line, but it's more sensitive than mono. So overall, guys, you could really get by with using nothing but fluorocarbon line all the time except for the floating top waters if you wanted to get technical about it. Now, one other time that I do use braided line is sometimes on a spinning rod if I'm fishing a fluke or floating worm. Sometimes I'll put braided line on my spinning outfit and then I'll take a barrel swivel and I'll put about a 2-foot leader of fluorocarbon on my fluke or on my floating worm. Now, the reason I do this is on a spinning outfit like that, I'm working that floating worm and that fluke fast like that. So a lot of times I'm working it so fast and keeping it close to the surface that the braided line isn't even in the water, but the braided line will allow me to cast a little bit further and get a little bit better hook set on a cast that's way out there. So that's my guy. That's what I do, guys. Over 90% fluorocarbon, and then less than 10%, mixing it up, 5% braided line, 5% mono. That's just the way that I like to do it. It's been working pretty good for me. So anyway, guys, that's just little tips on fishing line. Hope it helps you guys out and really hope to see you guys at the live stream tomorrow night. So we'll talk later.